everybody, Geraldine Rose here with a couple of minimally grungy cards for you to try out. This first card was from a workshop that I did with Suzanne, which is why I didn't record it. I did add on to it with my own techniques, which is why I can share it with you now, because I have that self-imposed rule about not recording during someone else's workshop. I wanted mine to look really grungy, so I soaked it with sprays and then put ink around the edges, Versamark, pounced, put some embossing glazes, some Lindy's Magicals down, really ratchety plant stamps that I embossed with gold and white, and put the vellum over top with the sentiment. It's a weird effect card. The second one, this one I am recording. I did throw away the footage from when I was doing the first panel with the die cuts, the flowers that you see here. I actually threw this panel in the garbage and then dug it out the next day because I wasn't happy with it. But then I figured out what I was going to do with it, which was die cut it out with the Petite Mountain Avon flower set. And what I had done was basically, again, the same sort of thing, soaked the background over top of a background stamp that I had put down in a rainbow sort of order. Once they're all grouped in their color bunches, we'll deepen up the center of those flowers and certain spots on the leaves with a darker ink. Keyhole system, awesome. I'm going to add on to this keyhole system by cutting out some extra petals and tucking them in to make these flowers even more full, and as well to create a bud. So don't be scared to augment your die cuts and experiment a little. You can see that here I'm adding it on. So there'll be a couple of flowers that'll have a slightly different look than the rest. This was my first time putting this layered die set together though, so you can see I pulled out the layering guide on the back to see how I was supposed to do the centers of the flowers. And I did the first one all in one little spot and then realized, when you're putting tittles down, it's kind of easier to do them in spots. So then I did the same here. I treated the centers of the flowers as if they were the tittles, and it was much easier to stack them that way. Once those are down, I'm just going to deepen just on one side of those flower centers because I had just used like yellow cardstock with a little bit of ink. Then we'll jump over to the background cling stamp, which this time was the Simon Says Stamp Mod Leaf set, using some Versamark, using some matte embossing powder on it, shaking it all around. Didn't care to use my rabbit tool on it because I knew that I was going to pull it off with the brush to make that grungy look, which is funny that I'm going in here and adding the powder. Oh, I guess it's just habit. You have to make certain your image is fully powdered everywhere, right? But you can see I'm tapping it off here with the brush to take away portions of that embossing powder. That I did throughout. You don't want that back in your jar because it'll contaminate the rest of it because it's got Versamarks set in with it. So heat embossing to set it into place. We are going to start on the ink smushing next. I've used 2 colors down. I'm just spritzing it. I'm going with the old traditional style of just smooshing, dabbing your panel down into that, and just it's going to be random. You're not going to be able to control it as much. I heat set it in between each layer, adding on wet blends, wet on dry creates the speckledy spots. I'm going to make a different kind of splatter, a milky diffuse one, by putting down some of the ink and mixing in some of the Ranger Picket Fence white spray with it. I'm going to swirl those around, start splattering, and realize, okay, the splatters aren't big enough, so I'm adding more water. You add water, it is going to make it more thin, but it's going to put bigger droplets down for you. At this stage in the game, that's a pretty good background. You could stop with that for any normal card. I thought, though, that because my flowers were so bright, that background wasn't going to go with it. So I came back in with some distress spritzes and some shimmer sprays over top of it. I'm adding a bit of water over top of that to get them to spread out a little bit more through the panel. And then to further brighten it up, I'm bringing in some Lindy's Magicals, and those as well are going to add another layer of shimmer to this. If you sprinkle those Magicals down over an already wet watercolor paper, it's going to help them to activate and spread immediately once they touch. Now, I know this is a heavy duty watercolor. It's the Canson XL. It can take being ripped along the edges. You can tell it's still a little damp, but that is good because that's going to help me get that really old scroll look on the edges, which is going to work in with the grunge. It's dried a little bit more. I've got out some of the Ultra embossing paste. I am using some of the shimmer spray as well too. I'm going to put some of the white down first, and then I'm going to go back in. I'm going to mix the embossing paste with the shimmer spray. You can mix it with inks. You can mix it with embossing glazes. Anything that will help to change the color a little bit. And I'm putting it down in like patchy sections. So because the stencil I'm using is quite narrow, I'm going to have to let each section dry, and then I'm going to go back in, moving it over a little bit each time. Once the whole thing was about 95% dry, I ran it through the Ultra, this time the Daisy Tiles embossing folder. It gives an impression even over top of that paste, which is a really nice effect. I'm assembling the flowers. The one flower I wanted to pop up a little bit more, so that's why I'm putting foam squares on the back of it. I'm tucking that bud in that we've created, which, hey, you can do that with your die cuts, right? The sentiment, which was the Ultra Stylish Greetings, I knew that I wanted it to go over top of the flowers so that I had that triangle composition. That's why I was cutting part of the hugs off so that it would still stay all at the same level. I know some people worry about putting the words over top of the flowers because, you've put all that time into them, but don't be scared to. Just plunk it down where it looks good to you. For the inside of the card, we're going to see if we can say this again. Tranquil greetings. Because it's such a light colored green ink, I did it a couple of extra times. Alrighty, I think we're ready to start assembling this card. We'll put some sticky tape on the back. I find it works really well for watercolor that's been really soaked, or for anything that's been run through an embossing folder. Help to hold it down. 1 inch doesn't fit, so I've got to grab out the 1/2 inch. You want to know how quickly I did that? You can check out that craft room tour because everything is within hand's reach. Putting that last little strip of tape down, snipping her off with my Teflon coated scissors. I hear that Simon Says Stamp has got a new tool out. It looks like a Butin toothbrush. It helps you to pull the backing paper off of the tapes and the foam tapes. I find I don't have too much trouble with this Ultra sticky tape though. This is just me. I like putting glue just around the edges, especially since we have ripped that paper up so that it would actually help it to stick down. You will notice here that there's a problem. Oh, wait, let's turn the panel around the right way. Double check on the inside of the card that, oh yeah, you got it right side up now. Squish, squish, squish. So that's the most satisfying part. And embellishments, of course. I put some pastel tones, the gems down on this in the same tones in the areas that the rainbow flowers were. I think I actually also put some sequins in there too that look like this calls for confetti. Custom stamp on the back. And that's the finished card. All right. It's grungy, but at the same time, it's pretty. It is a birthday card, so you can send it out. It's got a whole bunch of surprises. They can look at it. And you just had fun making it. So get into your craft room and experiment. Be that change you want to see in the world. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and liking and subscribing. And we'll catch you next time. All right. Bye-bye.